So today we're getting ready to erect the dies, the top marker for these monuments. So yesterday I was here and basically set the pedestal in place. And yesterday, especially this one, using the bubble level on my phone and also the we'll call it the manual or old style bubble level, this thing was sitting perfectly. So coming back today, I threw the bubble level on this cell phone on there and it was just a little bit off, as well as now we see this bubble level is just a touch off, so this corner is a little bit low. Now part of that, and then also this one seems to be off just a little bit. Over here though, this one's let's say machined differently, and the only flat surfaces are around the perimeter. So putting a 2-foot level on there, bubble level, that one seems to be kiltered a little bit too. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. It's quite possible that, you know, when we first level these up and shim them up using coins, and once I have that perfectly level, then I lift the stone back up, block it up, or put shims under the corners, and then I roll and put in the setting compound. So it's possible, I've noticed this on some other pedestals I've done, is that basically because there's not enough weight sitting on top of that pedestal, that sometimes the compound doesn't press all the way down to the shims or the pennies, the coins that I've got, and so it might be off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is set up the tripod, and we'll start with this one today. I'm not sure I'll get to the other one, and we'll get that top portion of the monument, the die, set in place, and we'll put the weight, all of its weight down, and see if that might settle the pedestal a little more and possibly squeeze out some of the setting compound. Even after I left yesterday, we do see a little, just a touch, let's say that the setting compound has pressed out just a little bit. It's still soft, and so I want to be careful to, when I lift this large die up on top, that I don't, what's happened in the past is sometimes I'll hit this, or it'll lean against it and press against it, and sometimes shift that base off a little bit. So I'm going to take a little extra caution today to try to avoid that and see if I can lift it vertically and get it over in position, set it down. I might have to walk the tripod over to let that happen. I'll then set that down dry, see if the pedestal settles a little more, and if it doesn't, I'll also shim this accordingly. So let's set up the tripod, and we'll see what happens. But those something to watch for in your own endeavors is, you know, it could be level starting off, and then after you add your compound or it doesn't settle, or coming back to the next step, you recheck your work. So it seems to be either my process isn't 100% correct, or I need to tweak it in some way, or just the simple fact that I don't have all the weight bearing down to squeeze it down to those shims, and it might be kind of floating on that bead of setting compound, and that might be what's throwing it off. So watch back, and we'll see what the results are once I get the tripod and that top portion in place. Okay, we're going to go ahead and install or erect the tripod hoist. And one of the things that we're going to do to connect these, and another video you saw how I built this, but basically just little hitch pins, And this particular hitch pin, there'll be 3 of them, have little clips on it. So those go on the down toward the feet, and the safety chains will connect into here. So the tubes, or the legs, basically just slide in, and we have various holes for adjustment. Right now we're going to install this pretty much in its shortest adjustment. So I've got some more hitch pins, and basically we want these hitch pins to be, all of your hitch pin handles to be pretty much on the outside. So picture your tripod set up in the upright position. We want the handles, pin handles, on the outside, so they're easy to grip and use as a handle to help move. And then also when we put our safety chain on, that'll wrap around all the way around the perimeter to keep the legs from splaying out. So we'll just stick this one in down, put in our pin, safety clip. We'll also put the foot there, the pin down at the foot that has the clips for the safety chain. And I think I need to mark one of these poles or change them so this safety pin down at the bottom isn't going in the lowermost hole, but I don't think that's going to be an issue today. Let's connect I've already got these 2 legs inserted into the tripod head. I've already got the chain positioned so that when we lift the tripod up, the chain will already be facing down, and that chain is what we'll attach this chain hoist to. So these bolts you see in here right now I've got them permanent, just to create a dead stop so that these legs don't go all the way in. Technically you probably don't need them, but it's just when they hit this dead stop, then I know I just need to pull it back a little bit so the pinholes align. We got a little rain last night, and so the ground is just a little damp, but it's not, it shouldn't be soft enough where we have to worry about the feet actually digging in. Should you find that in your area, you may want to then screw in we'll call them a stabilizer pin or kind of an anchor. These screw into the bottom of the feet and kind of give a pointed rod that will dig in and keep the feet from sliding out. Really not a big problem, at least not in this cemetery, in this lift, because we're also always going to have the safety chain attached to keep the legs from splaying out. I think in a prior video we may have put the chain hoist on first. You can kind of play around and see, is it easy for you to attach the chain hoist now, then lift it up, or get it up into kind of a tripod position in the air and then lift the chain hoist up and attach it. I've had a couple injuries recently, and so sometimes that dictates how I lift it, and also how high. So let's try and attach this later. Let's try and lift it right now. So go ahead and we'll sprinkle these out a little bit. I'll also start attaching some safety chains. Now this first one will keep these two legs down here from splaying that way. The next two chains will attach down to these bottom feet, and then as we get the tripod up high enough, these two chains, this chain and another one, will actually attach down to the foot of that third leg. And if you find that this is let's say a delicate task, or you're uncertain of your strength or the stability in the footing, then get a helper. So hopefully I've found that basically I've been able to, I've somewhat designed this tripod so it's collapsible, it's expandable, I can take it apart, I can throw it in the back of my pickup. You could actually disassemble it or pull out some more pins and actually put it in the trunk of your car. So it actually pretty much, most of my tools, and especially this hoist, is collapsible enough to get it into the trunk of your car or the back of a smaller vehicle. You don't need a full-size pickup like I have. So let's go ahead and splay this leg a little more. As we get close enough, then I'll hook these other safety chains to this third leg. So let's see how it goes, and if this goes poorly, I'm going to edit it out. So again, these handles, this type of hitch pin makes good handles for lifting. So we're going to try and lift it and kind of walk it that way into an erect position. So you can see right now, it might be at kind of the limit of, depending on how heavy your chain hoist is, I don't want to get it too high because then I can't lift and hook up to that chain. And actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow this pin. I'm actually going to move it up to a different position, at least temporarily, so that in this position, I might even need to go higher. Maybe I'll even go up to here. Yeah, we can do that. So while I'm in this intermediate position, working on it and trying to get that chain hoist on, then I can at least have a safety chain attached. And because of the lengths, I can shorten it up. But right now I don't want to go higher. In fact, I'm going to put it on the longest length. Go ahead and splay it out some more. Now we've got our safety chain on. It's at a height I think I can easily attach my chain hoist to. Everything's safe. It'll take a hell of a lot of weight or things to go wrong before this thing splays out and loses its footing. Okay, so we got that on, and if you recall, or just a suggestion, so before you take it down, I would say You know, when you take it down, essentially your hook's going to be up to here from lifting your die. Before you take it down, lower your hoist, so now your chain is down or going to be closer to the ground, so you've already prepared yourself for your next lift. So right now I'm going to walk it back toward this direction and get this further in the air. You can see it just doesn't take a lot, and again the handles come in handy. And as we get it more vertical, now let's go ahead and see if we can move this safety pin to the bottom position. You might even want to stop midway because keep in mind that we don't want these chains dragging on the monument. And if you're comfortable enough or need to, maybe you just need to unhook a chain for a little bit while you move the tripod into position above your lifting point. So we're going to want to try to get our center probably about here. Lift our monument up, we'll set it back down. I brought a piece of plywood to set it on, and that's primarily just to keep this surface clean. I've already got it scrubbed up and ready to accept the compound, or the setting compound. So then we'll probably get it upright, set it on that plywood or some other piece of wood out of the dirt. Probably need to walk and reposition our tripod, so now it's centered here. And then maybe the second lift or final lift, we can lift it up, bring it over, and set it down. And again, keep in mind that as this comes up on your lift, to try to avoid its pressure, its weight from pushing on this bottom pedestal, because this is not 100% bonded yet. It's still flexible, and it is subject to some movement. So I'm going to try and lift, move over, set it down as best I can. Might be a little awkward with one person, or maybe we'll pull out and rig up some other straps that might hold it over against the leg and away from the pedestal. So let's kind of walk this over a little bit more. Again, you see how the handles are aiding me in the movement and placement of this tripod. Keep an eye on your hook, so if it's too low, or make sure it's not too low that it's going to hit something. And if it is, sling it over a leg. Or you can even hook it into the pin. Same thing with these other chains. Throw them over a leg, get them off to the side so they're not dragging and hitting your monument. Well, I think I'm going to try and reposition this one now all the way down to the bottom. Although I see that we're splayed a little too far at this point. We're getting pretty close. So now we essentially have the hitch pins in and at kind of our lowest position. Our safety chains are in place. This will also give you now a good feel of, I mean, you can splay them out each way. We've got a 10-foot section going all directions. So as long as those three sections are tight, then you know all your legs are pretty much equidistant from each other. Now, let's go back to this to see how close we are. So So if that's kind of our plumb bob, we know we still have to move this at least over to here if we're in our final position or final lifting. I actually need to get it over to here on our first lift to get this upright. And now be careful with this bottom chain. Need to go up and over. Let's see how we are now. But we still need to go that way. So basically that's erecting the tripod, positioning. You can see how you can walk it around. Okay, we got the tripod kind of centered about halfway between the pedestal and the die. And now we're getting ready to harness it up. So if these straps were a little shorter, we could just do a choke collar like this. But I'm going to send it through underneath one more time. And then we'll kind of do a choke. And keep in mind, try to keep the straps away from the top enough so that when it tightens, it chokes, and yet it will be high enough from its center point that when you lift it, then the top will actually rise rather than kind of teeter-totter. Now, when we do start lifting this, you'll note that it's just going to come up cockeyed because I'm only lifting on one side, and you can rest it down, possibly reposition this if it's really turning cross-eyed. We may actually put two straps on it, or if you saw in another video, maybe we'll see later, I might use a smaller strap, and that's more for repositioning and straightening to try and get it to a vertical lift, because really all of my lifting is done by this strap. So the other straps are, let's say, secondary or auxiliary to keep things straightened up. So kind of based on experience and where this choke hold is, it looks like we're going to be fairly close to the center line. So I'll go ahead and rig that up and start lifting. Again, keep in mind of your chains, and I did go ahead and finally mark my hoist, which way is up, which way is down. Okay, so we've got it under pressure, and before we start lifting, I want to get some plywood under there to keep that surface clean. So this isn't really to intend to basically bear any weight, but again, it's just to keep this surface clean so that we get a good bond later on. probably note, this is one of these, so far, probably the heaviest one I've done at this cemetery. So you can see just how this wood is sunken into the mud. That's essentially the same concept that's caused a lot of these foundations, these gravestones to fail, is there's not enough adequate foundation material and especially drainage, especially with all this heavy black dirt in southern Minnesota, is that over time, and there's a monument right next to me that kind of shows it, is that basically the weight of the monument just keeps going down and down. The black dirt or the subsoil or the soil kind of mushrooms out around it, and this thing just keeps sinking down. And then, as you can maybe see in over in the side, underneath these pedestals, these old pedestals, they put generally a lot of fieldstone or rock. And because it freezes and thaws here, just over time it just kind of rocks and shifts, and then as that pedestal, that 300 pounds worth of limestone settles, it gets below grade, and then water gets in there and freezes and thaws and basically splits that pedestal. That's what happened in most of these that I've reset, and probably in your area cemeteries, kind of the same type of monument. This one is 1877. That one we're going to do next is 1898. But so a lot of these installations, these headstones, were installed about 150 years ago. So we'll see if we can get them back upright, and hopefully they'll last, let's shoot for more than 150 years. Somebody check back in about 200 years and let's see how they're standing. So I'll continue to lift this, and we'll put you on pause and show you what's ahead. So here's what it looks like when it's airborne just by everything being lifted by one strap. But you can see that it's just hanging at a goofy angle, and that's just not going to work when we set it, especially with one person. To try to move it over onto the pedestal, if I try to set it down here on the pedestal at this angle, number one, if I'm even able to get it back into a fully vertical position, more than likely I'm going to disturb and move this one off of center and off of the bond that I created or that I did yesterday. So, and I've also shoveled off so I got a little more level surface where I brought this piece of plywood in. But let's go ahead and add some other strapping to see if we can get it into a more vertical position. Okay, so what I've done is added an auxiliary ratchet strap, this orange strap. Really don't need it so much to lift as to maybe see if I can use it to get this more vertical. Otherwise, we could take a second lift strap, make a choke collar, or I think some people call it a basket weave or something like that, put it on this side to try to distribute the weight more evenly to get a vertical lift. I've actually found so far that this allows me to, I guess, fine tune it a little more. So you can see that I'm not under a lot of pressure, and then depending on your monument, be careful of any finial or top decorative item. This one's already been broken, and so right now I've just temporarily I'm rubbing against that. I can hold it away with my hand or stick a block of wood in there, but soon I'll be past that position. In fact, I'm going to get my hand out of there now. But you can see how now this ratchet strap is more or less pulling the bottom toward me and putting the whole headstone in a more vertical position. So now I'm getting pretty close where you can see I can probably move it over and get it set down. I might have to do this in multiple stages, so I'm going to shift that over a little bit, lower it down. You don't have to watch me do that, and we'll get this, try to get it vertical right here, readjust my tripod and my straps, and eventually get it over right on top of the pedestal. And if you see me sweating or water dripping off me, it's a combination of sweat. It's actually a cool day today. It's only in the low 80s. The last few days it's been, or last week it's been mid to high 90s, high humidity, but we've also got a little rain happening today. Not sure if you can see it, but now that I have the monument sitting on the under its own weight, I lowered the chain hoist a little more and got a little bit of slack on here, and then I tightened up this ratchet strap, so now this chain hook is fairly tight, as vertical as I can get it right now. After we get it upright, and if I see it's cocking one way or the other excessively, then I can always adjust it with this ratchet strap. So I found that that secondary strap is actually very useful in fine-tuning this. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to take a little more weight off of here, get some slack, and then I'm going to walk the tripod so it is more centered over the pedestal. Okay, so I've repositioned it once. I walked the tripod closer to center. Now I've got it sitting on the weight of the apron and shimmed up. So now I'm going to let the take the weight off of the chains again. I'm going to walk the tripod over and hopefully one more reposition. Then I'll be able to lift it into its final resting spot. Okay, I'm ready to lift it hopefully in the final place. You see I added kind of a third hand piece of this ratchet strap. So as I lift it, I'm going to kind of use this to hopefully hold it away, as well as use my foot while I'm trying to lift it. So basically, I mean, you get the gist of it. Plus I've got a storm coming in, so I have to stop playing videographer and get this job done before it rains. So watch my other videos, and hopefully you find this helpful, and if so, please use it at home and in your efforts to be a good cemeterian. Take care.